Okay, so the next thing that you are going to work on is this packet to review all 3 transformations that we've discussed so far. So far we've talked about translations, reflections, and rotations. Okay, and a lot of these you did really well with as we went through them for the lessons. However, once we start to put them all together, they kind of get jumbled up because some of the rules are very similar to each other. So we like to do some review that has a little bit of each. So this is translation, reflection, and then rotation on the front and the back here. And that way you kind of get to see all of them together just like you will on the test and just like you will on the project. That way you can make sure you know when are you using which rules. Okay? So first part, this one wants the translation notation. We also call this algebraic representation throughout the chapter. So on this is going to be where you do your ordered pair, but you have to pay attention to what's happening and what direction it's moving and what you're doing with your x and your y value. So this is going to be helpful for you here. It would be great if you could do it without looking at this. So I'd suggest on every section, like maybe you try it yourself first, and if you're struggling, you're not quite sure what to do, then go to these rules and see if they can help you. Think about your coordinate plane and think about, okay, so x-axis is when we're moving right and left. Y-axis is when we're moving up and down. And think about it for if say we're moving right, you're going to add to your x. If we're moving up, you're going to add to your y value. However, if we're moving left, you're going to subtract from your x value. If we're moving down, you're going to subtract from your y value. And you just use the correct operation there, adding or subtracting, and then use the numbers that were described in each one. Okay? If you do not remember what to do on this, our notes on translation for the first day, and those were paper notes, you should be able to get that out and kind of look at the translation notation. Okay, number 5. We're going to do number 5 together, and then the rest of them you'll do on your own, so please follow along with me. On this one, we have A, B, and C already graphed for you. So they gave us those ordered pairs, and those are graphed. Okay. You can really think of this as 2 different ways. You can use your rules. Okay, so if it's translated 5 units right, I know that means I'm going to add 5 to my x value, and if it's 1 unit up, I'm going to add 1 to my y value, so I can easily go through and use my calculator. And I don't know why, but people tend to do better using the rules. I know everybody thinks it's easier just to count on the graph, but using the rules, people tend to make less mistakes on it. I don't know if because we're using our calculator or what, but it just happens that way. So -3 plus 5 would be 2, and -1 plus 1 would be 0. Okay, and so as I look at this, if I count over here, oh, and I had the wrong number. I'm so sorry. If you were wondering why I had 5 there, you would have been right. It should have been a 4. So sorry about that. Since it was 4 units right, it would be plus 4. And when I did that, that would have just been 1 there. Okay? So my first point would have been 1, 0. Okay, so I'd go 1, 0, and put A prime. Okay, remember the other way you could do it is just to say, okay, here's B. I need to go 4 to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 up. And obviously I didn't do a very good job of proving to you that you make less mistakes this way because I wrote the wrong number down. This ordered pair would be 0, -3. Okay. And C, I'm just going to do this way again just for C. So C, I'd have -1 plus 4 would be 3. And -2 plus 1 would be -1. So I'd go 3, -1, that's my C prime. You always want to be using your straight edge. Okay, and you should be checking, does my triangle look the same? And when I say does it look the same, I'm not saying is it still a triangle, I'm saying is that the exact same shape of the triangle, okay? Like when you're looking at the angle that this is at, it should be at the same angle. Same thing here, same angles, okay? If A would have been up here on accident, if I would have, or I had 2, 0 on accident, if it would have been here, that would have been a different looking triangle. I would have known once I graphed it, ooh, these don't look the same. I made a mistake somewhere, okay? Let's go ahead and flip it. So the next one is reflections. I just want to remind you for reflections that, remember, it is look at which axis it reflects across. That one stays the same. So if it's reflecting across the x value stays the same. If it's reflecting across the y value stays the same. And this does not mean it becomes negative. It means it becomes the opposite. Okay. So let's see. Let's go ahead and just do number 1. Okay. These are all reflected over the x-axis for 1 and 2. For 3 and 4, it says the y-axis. If I were you, honestly, I would get a highlighter out. Say, okay, x-axis, and remember, we like to highlight our x-axis so we know which one it's flipping across. It's like, okay, imagine your mirror is right here. Where would you see that reflection then? Okay, we know that it should be the same distance away from the reflection, or of the line of reflection. So like on this one, if C was 1 up, now it's going to go 1 down. It's C prime. So that is at 1, 2, 3, -1. Okay, for B, B was 1, 2, 3, 4 up. So now it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 down. That is at 1, -4. And my last one here, A, was 4 up, so now it's going to be 4 down, and that's going to be A prime. Don't forget the primes on those. So that is at -3, -4. And again, use your straight edge. If you don't have a straight edge today, I would be asking to borrow one. Okay. So that is reflections at the very bottom. Okay. It just wants you to tell which one is the line of reflection. So you're either going to be writing x-axis or y-axis for each of those. Okay. And again, think through your rules. Think through what quadrants you know. Like if it's saying it's going from quadrant 4 to quadrant 3, then we know that would be over the y-axis because that's the one that's in between them. Okay. If you flip it over to the last page, rotations. Okay. Rotations. We have all of those rules written in there. Remember, it's really just these 3 rules to remember. And then the other ones are the exact same. But you really want to pay attention to what your rules say. So when you are looking at the first one, first of all, we need to write out what our ordered pairs are. A is at 2, 2. B is at 8, 6. C is at 6, 2. And since it says we are going 90 degrees clockwise, 90 degrees clockwise. So remember, if it's 90 degrees, you are going to switch the order, and clockwise, think about the way the clock turns. It goes that way. So if it's turning to the right, you're going to make the right one the opposite. So remember, first we switch them. So y would come first, x would come second, and then we're going to make the right one the opposite. Okay? So first of all, I would go through and just switch your ordered pairs. 2, 2. This would be 6, 8. This would be 2, 6. That's just switching them. Then we have to go back through, and since it was clockwise, and clockwise turns to the right, we have to make the right one the opposite. Was positive, so it becomes negative. Positive becomes negative. Positive becomes negative. And then you would graph those ordered pairs. You would make sure to label them A prime, B prime, C prime, and again, you would end up using your straight edge and connecting them. Make sure that the triangle is looking the exact same shape, exact same size. If it looks different, you know you made a mistake. The other thing to think about is 90 degrees clockwise. If this is turning like a clock, it should end up in this quadrant. So make sure when you're graphing, that's where it's ending up. Okay? The rest of this is all the same, so you should be able to hopefully do really well on that right now.